Can subject to work with pre-foreclosure wholesaling? Hey, this is Ola coming to you live from my myEmpirePRO studios. Welcome back. So we're answering the question, can it work with pre-foreclosure wholesaling? Before we get into all of that and answer the question properly, maybe we need to refresh ourselves on what is pre-foreclosure, what is wholesaling, what it's subject to, right? So first of all, what is pre-foreclosure? This is essentially properties that has been listed with the government on a public record. Literally everyone can see it as delinquent, right, on their mortgage or their taxes or any other types of liens. So basically, a person is supposed to make a payment. They've used their house, the property, as a collateral, and they've defaulted on that payment, right? So the person that they owe money to has now approached the government agency in charge. So in New Jersey, that's usually the county government, okay, that lists those properties, and then they file a complaint. They file what they call a lease pendies, right? It's an intention to foreclose on the property, and it's public. Everyone can see it. So people like me, people like yourself, can see that and see that this person is having a difficult time. This is having a difficult time owning the property, and life does happen like that sometimes, you know, where you feel like you may not be able to afford to hold on to a property like that. Like we know for a fact that real estate is going to continue to go up in value, but within short to mid-term, sometimes some people cannot afford to hold on to a property. Okay, they can't afford to have that property on their books, so they end up on this kind of list. It's called pre-foreclosure. Anyway, so what is wholesaling? Wholesaling is the art and science of finding deeply discounted properties, locking it up under contract, meaning you write a purchase contract for it at a set price, and then you now have a right in purchasing the property. You can now sell that right to another person. Typically, that is a cash buyer, investor of real estate. They'll pay for the property. They pay you a little fee to call the assignment fee. Excuse me. It's called the assignment fees that you make. You know, you make some good money from that. It could be anywhere from zero, well, not zero, but $10,000 per deal to as high as up to $82,000 per deal. That's my personal experience. That's how much I've personally, no partners, nothing like that, made on one single deal. So, but that's not typical, okay? My average is $25,000-$30,000. A lot of $7,000 deals, you know. But again, it's extremely lucrative, and that's per deal, right? So now, what is subject to? Subject to is when you approach your property. So somebody that is already shown on the pre-foreclosure list, that means they're at least 3 months behind on their payment. Can you approach them with subject to? Subject to is when you attempt to buy a property. It's the purchase of a property subject to the existing mortgage on the property. So they owe $200,000 on the property. You're buying the property for $270,000, but you want them to keep you don't want to pay off the mortgage, $200,000. You've noticed that the payment for servicing that mortgage is something you can afford, while you can still bring in a lot of income on the property. That's called subject to the existing mortgage on the property. Can that work with pre-foreclosure? Yes, it can, but you will need a certain amount of equity in the property, okay? If the property is underwater, meaning they're owing way too much on it, that typically means that the mortgage monthly payment on that property will be a bit too high for you to be able to compensate for with the income that the property can possibly or potentially generate. Now, with that being said, it's very possible. Some people there are other reasons beyond financial that people may not be able to afford to hold on to a property. Okay, and that's typically what you're looking for. It could be somebody that inherited a property but they live on the other end of the coast, right? Then they just don't want to deal with the headache, so they sell you the property and they say, yeah, we have about $120,000 we owe on the property. Property is worth $320. Okay, yeah, I'll let it go for $150. Need some work. Okay, $150. There's a mortgage of $140 on it. That mortgage payment on it's let's just hypothetically $800. Oh yeah, but this property can bring in $3,000 safely if we put in a little of $10,000 for work. We keep the mortgage on it. We make the payment of $800 on it every month. The property is bringing in $3,000. We're netting around $2,200 every month on the property. Okay, you're paying the mortgage, you're the new buyer, but you're paying the existing mortgage that was on the property before. But now you've also removed the property, you've been able to catch up. So there was some $10,000 area at the county house or to the mortgage company. So you brought the mortgage back current, meaning it's in good standing now, and you continue to make payment. But in order to do everything I just said, the numbers have to work out. There has to be enough equity to make this work. So can it work? Can subject to work with pre-foreclosure wholesaling? Yes, but there has to be a certain type of amount of equity in it, because the money just has to make sense, right? You're not going to be coming out of your pocket every month because somebody said that's the strategy. The strategy, any given strategy to make money in real estate, the numbers has to work. And the beauty about real estate is that you can always, as long as the seller is motivated, you can look at the papers and say, hey, I think we can make something work here, right? I think we can make something work. So the answer to the question is yes, it can work. Absolutely, yes, it can work.